In this session, we shall say about disorders of the circulatory system, which will be the last part of this chapter, body fluids and circulation. So now, let's see the disorders of the circulatory system. So among those disorders, the first one I would like to talk about is high blood pressure, also called hypertension. Right. So before we come to know what actually is this hypertension, we have to know about the actual normal blood pressure. So how much is this normal blood pressure? It will be taken as 120 mm of Hg by 80 mm of Hg. So this here in the numerator we have is the systolic pressure, and in the denominator we have is the diastolic pressure, right? And any values more than this normal value, we will conclude that as a hypertension, and values below than this we will consider as hypotension. Anyway, here a repeated checks of a person gives a value of 140, okay, mm of Hg by 90 mm of Hg, right? So this indicates the person is suffering from high blood pressure. So this is the value for high BP. So the value for high BP, okay, is 140 by, okay, 90 mm of Hg. Okay, now right, so the problem of high blood pressure can be caused, okay, by different reasons. uh, let's see the causes of this high blood pressure, right? So causes of hypertension. So one, excessive intake of salt. So if a person have a habit of taking excess salt, then the person he has a chance of developing hypertension in course of time. Then atherosclerosis. So atherosclerosis is a deposition of cholesterol, okay, and other lipids in the inner layer of the blood vessel is a condition what we call atherosclerosis. And because of that, the artery wall, I mean, its thickness increases and the lumen, okay, it decreases. So if you see like this, okay, so here you can see so here is a deposition of that cholesterol and other materials, okay, in the inner layer, and this is the lumen, and here is the deposition, okay, of cholesterol and other materials. We'll again see about this atherosclerosis. Okay, as a result you can see here the lumen decreased. Okay, so decrease in the lumen actually results in increasing the pressure. So here atherosclerosis is one cause for increasing the blood pressure also. Then long exposure to tension and stress. Long exposure to tension and stress can also cause high blood pressure. Then, and another problem, obesity. So being overweight, that is obesity, can be also a cause for hypertension. Then maybe defects in kidney function can also result in hypertension. And this is due to, I mean, when the kidneys do not function, there will be accumulation of salt and water in the blood, and that actually causes the elevation of blood pressure. So here some of the causes that are responsible for high blood pressure. Right, next, actually in 90% of cases, uh, the doctor may not come to know actual cause. So in that case, he treats it as a idiopathic. Okay, so 90% of these hypertension problems, the cause is not known properly. So when the cause is not known properly, then we use the word idiopathic. So idiopathic hypertension, so is seen around in, okay, about 90% of people will have this idiopathic hypertension. The next, what will be the result of this hypertension? We'll see. So this hypertension can cause it can cause cerebral hemorrhage, which means breakdown of blood vessels. So here the hemorrhage, which means breakdown of blood vessels, that takes place in case of brain. So that's what we call cerebral hemorrhage, because the pressure is very high, and in some cases the blood vessels may not able to withstand that high pressure, and they break open, releasing the blood into the tissue spaces. So then the condition is called cerebral hemorrhage, and it's almost a fatal situation, right, if the cerebral hemorrhage takes place. Then there may be, okay, even kidney failure can take place. Then there may be even enlargement of heart also occurs due to, okay, a chronic hypertension problem. And then it can result even in, okay, the heart failure or even the heart attack. Right, so that's a small information on hypertension. Now let's see what actually is this hypotension. So here, hypotension, when we see the values, okay, 100 by 60, so 100 mm of Hg by 60 mm of Hg, then this we will consider as a hypotension problem. Okay, so hypertension is 140 by 90, and hypotension, we will take the value as 100 by 60 mm of Hg. You can see both in systolic and diastolic, okay, pressures, they decreased, right? So lesser than this, okay, or 100 by 60 and lesser than that, we consider the person is suffering from hypotension. And here we'll see what are the causes of this hypotension. So causes of hypotension, right? So one, it may be because of hormonal imbalances. Then loss of blood can also be a reason, right? And okay, emotional stress, okay, or even less intake of salt. So the salt which is normal, normal quantity of the salt have to be taken. So if a person takes less sodium, so usually sodium is present in other food substances also, and not necessarily to take salt. whatever that food he takes, if that sodium is present less, the sodium chloride is present less, then it can result in the concentration of right sodium chloride less in the blood, and that actually causes again hypotension. Right, so that's all about hypertension and hypotension. Next we shall see about coronary artery disease. Artery disease. So here coronary artery is a blood vessel that supplies blood to the heart. Right, so coronary artery is a blood vessel that supplies blood to the heart. Okay, and right, anything, I mean the deposition of this cholesterol, right, and fat and calcium and other substances that will take place in this coronary artery results in decreasing the lumen. So just now I have told you, so when you take the artery, so the normal artery you may find like this. Okay, this is the thickness of artery wall, thickness of artery wall, and right, this cholesterol, calcium and other substances in course of time they start depositing here, and what happens is this layer starts, okay, bulging into the lumen. So this is lumen of the blood vessel where the blood actually flows. So is a that, so you can see this deposition, okay, increased in course of time. Just it doesn't take place in one day, so it takes place over a very long period of time. So this is the deposition of cholesterol, fat, calcium, and also the fibrous tissue, which is a dead tissue, right? And because of that, the lumen of the blood vessel becomes narrower, so the narrow it becomes, the more pressure it results, right? So this deposition of cholesterol, fat, calcium, okay, and all this is a condition we call it atherosclerosis, right? And atherosclerosis is a type of arteriosclerosis, is a type of arteriosclerosis, right? So for that reason, this coronary artery disease, in short we take it as CAD, is also referred as the atherosclerosis, right? So that's all about the coronary artery disease. The next one we'll see about angina, also called angina pectoris, right? So the meaning of this angina or angina pectoris is an acute chest pain, so which means acute chest pain, right? So that a pain that starts suddenly, right? And this will actually happen when there is no oxygen, okay, is supplied to the muscle, I mean heart muscle. So this angina pectoris is caused when enough oxygen is not supplied to cardiac muscle. When enough oxygen is not supplied to the cardiac muscle, right? So this angina pectoris can occur in any age, okay, in both man and as well as in women, okay. uh, Both men and women of any age are prone to angina, right? So here, we say that it is very common in middle-aged persons, common in middle-aged persons. So around 40, 50. Okay, so in this, this is a middle-aged person. So in them, it's very common. Okay, we'll see. And again, here I'm telling that angina pectoris is caused when there is no enough oxygen supplied to the, okay, the cardiac muscle or the heart muscle. And again here, the reason for this acute chest pain may be the atherosclerosis due to deposition of those, okay, cholesterol and other substances. The narrowing of the blood vessel result in less supply of blood to the heart muscles, and because of that, it may also result in this, okay, acute chest pain, right? So the next one we'll see about heart failure, then heart attack, and cardiac arrest. Okay, so this heart attack, which is also called myocardial infarction, in short it's called MI. So we'll see about three words: heart failure, heart attack, and cardiac arrest, which are all not the same. So here, when coming to the heart failure, is when the heart is not pumping, okay, blood effectively. So here, heart doesn't pump blood effectively. So when it is not pumping blood effectively, then the condition we call it heart failure. And here this heart failure is also called, okay, congestive heart failure. So here, why we call congestive heart failure, because congestion is the main symptom in this disease. So here, congestion, of course, of lungs is main symptom. So because of this, the heart failure is also called as a congestive heart failure. Okay, so here this congestion of lungs is what we call it the pulmonary congestion. So as the blood moves very slowly in the blood vessels in the lungs, what happens is there will be stagnation of the blood in the pulmonary vessels, and because of that, okay, it results in edema condition. So here, right, this stagnation of blood in the pulmonary vessels, in pulmonary vessels results in edema. So that is accumulation of fluids. Okay, so due to accumulation of fluids is the condition what we call edema. As the blood flows very slowly, or sometimes it may stop completely, and because of that the blood may get stagnant in those pulmonary vessels, and that results in, okay, accumulation of fluids in the lungs, and that is the condition we call it edema, and overall we call it the pulmonary congestion. So, and it is a main symptom in case of this heart failure. So that is the reason why we also call this heart failure as congestive heart failure. So the next one, heart attack. So this heart attack is caused when the heart muscle is damaged due to inadequate blood supply. So when there is a very less blood supply to the heart muscle, then the heart muscle will get damaged, it may die, and that results in a condition called myocardial infarction or the heart attack. Then coming to the third one, the cardiac arrest. In the case of this cardiac arrest, which actually means the heart completely stops beating. So the meaning of cardiac arrest is heart stops beating, so which indicates the person is dead. So in these cases the person may not die immediately, so then later such conditions, the heart failure and heart attack may result in the finally the cardiac arrest. Okay, right. So that's all about the disorders of the circulatory system. And in the next session, we will start with the objective on this circulatory system. I mean, the body fluids and circulation.